Okay, class, this is Dr. Martin. I thought I'd try this format for presenting a little bit of information, in particular Meno, Plato's Meno this week. First off, great job last week, some real engaging discussion on the discussion board. A reminder, this week we have our first reaction papers due. Okay, a couple words about the theme this week. I mentioned the articles, also some of the themes there. Again, looking at trying to draw some common themes across, but also acknowledging distinctions. This week is the theme is on morals, morality, and whether schools play a role in society in inculcating morals for that society and children. And we have a variety of perspectives on this. I purposely pulled together these well-known but also very different theorists, I guess, perspectives on what is moral and how teachers and schools play a moral role in society. Perhaps not always using that language. I'd like to begin with Nodding's. Nodding's short article, which is based on Martin Buber's I, Thou, in which students and teachers look at students and relate with students as a thou rather than an it. And they do that when they put the care of the student first and foremost over, if necessary, over the content. Of course, this is very difficult in a standards-based education model. Maybe all of these are, which raises questions also. But Nodding's basic position is that teachers inculcate the ethical principle of care when they communicate care in their relationship with students in the classroom. And she says some nice things at the end, I think, about also the implications, perhaps policy-wise, on what this might mean, for instance, smaller classrooms, etc. It's something to think about. It's a very famous position, sometimes equated with feminism, so Nodding. Second of all, Parker Palmer, another well-known theorist, perhaps not as well-known in Nodding's out of Stanford, but Palmer focuses on the integrity and identity of teachers, and that rather than worrying about the latest teaching techniques, what teachers should focus in on is on their personhood. After all, and this is something to think about too, oftentimes if you ask students who they remember as teachers, it's not what they taught you or what these teachers taught the students, but who the teacher was to the students, both, I guess, in the area of care, but also in the way that Palmer talks about that because of their integrity as a teacher, because of the fact that they taught their technique, it was their own, that they were authentic in that teaching, and they shared their heart. There also is a place, interesting enough, at the end of Palmer, we'll see if this comes up in discussion, that teachers will oftentimes have dark days too, and that there should be a space and place to be able to share that in order to redeem that and make teaching and schools a healthy place too. Next we have Dewey. Dewey is, in some ways, continues on with last week's themes. Some of his, once you understand Dewey, you can see his ideas pervade all of his writing. We'll continue on with this particular reading also next week. We'll see some of these ideas continue on. Some of the ideas I want to quickly mention, though, is his focus on process and inclusion. First of all, setting up a process of curriculum construction, not unlike Child and the Curriculum, in which doing is linked with learning, in which knowledge that is on the outside of the world also is found on the inside of the classroom. So there aren't dualities between those. And also mention that because of the process in which curriculum is constructed, in which the child's psychology, the world of the child is involved, there's something intentionally moral about that. Rather than it being outside the world, it's including their world and therefore not oppressive to them, but actually leading them and guiding them somewhere. One last thing with Dewey is his process. There's always a cooperative learning component to it. Therefore, it's democratic in it, and there's skills, civic skills, really, and values that are learned in that process of cooperative learning. Things like listening and taking leadership and sharing and working together that are intensely moral. Lastly, I want to mention Plato's Meno, of whom Socrates is the primary interlocutor. There's going to be 3 themes I want to focus on with that, especially the first 2. You can find those on the PowerPoint I uploaded yesterday. Also, I think it's instructive as you're reading through it to use the order of logic that I put it up there, because essentially what happens in this dialogue is that Socrates is first going to break Meno down in the first 8 pages or so, and then he's going to build up his own position, and I'll continue on with that on the next video. So I'll see you on that one. If you hear these gurglings and coos, that's because I have both my daughters at my feet as I'm doing this, and I'll perhaps show you them at the end. All right, see you in a bit.